What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Nerd Castle. Today in the world of indie games, we're going to be doing a little bit of a extended video. Not like a super long video, but it's going to have some edits on in there. So I'm like all buckled up already. I got some snacks. I got a drink just in case we go long haul on this one. Today we're going to be taking a look at an updated demo for Norland. If you've never seen Norland before, this is a game that is scheduled to come out around May, and it is a combination of RimWorld and Crusader Kings, where the game is effectively going to give you everything procedural, from the lords you get, to the city you get, to the location you get, all of your neighbors and all of their relationships with you and your relationship with the church. And then from there, it's really kind of a sandbox game to do whatever the hell you want. If you want to play the game and fulfill your ambitions by kowtowing to the church, you can do that. If you want to go to war and conquer people and wipe them out and force them to become vassal states, you can absolutely do that too. Today, they've given us access to the first 25 days of an unhooked demo, so it's got like all the content in it rather than having like placeholders and things. But we can only play the first 25 days. The good news is I played for about an hour and a half, and that only got me to like day 17, I think, with all the little management things I was doing. So let's dive on in. If you want to check the game out, I got a link for you down below in the description. On top of that, you can also take a look down there if you wanted to hang out live on Discord or on Twitch. Let's do this thing. I'll probably just take whoever we get here. So we can have two brothers and a wife. We can have two sisters and a son. Doesn't really matter. We'll go with the standard start. It looks like we've got Druzimir, who is 40 years old and has very good manners and very good persuasion, very good combat. We've got Urina over here, who has a very high intellect and is good at teaching. We've got Zivarod over here, who is good at trade and is good at managing buildings, but he's a gambling addict, unfortunately. I'll probably swap out gambling addict over here for early balding. I mean, he's 38, dude. If your hair falls out when you're 38, that's not that late in life. So honestly, not early balding anymore. If he's losing his hair when he was like 15, like, yeah, but still. Let's dive on into the game, and we get to pick where we want to start out at. We can decide to play a normal map. We can play an easy map. We can play a hard map. There's a number of modifiers you can play around with in this title as well. Maybe I'll go with Goldshire. That sounds like a cool place to live. And then it's going to fill in all of our neighbors and their relationships and stuff like that. The map is the same every single time that I've played the game from what I've seen so far, but the relationships you have with your neighbors and whatnot, they tend to be randomized. And then, of course, we're also going to have to do diplomacy and whatnot with these people. Let's make a flag that represents me, shall we? I like something like that right there. I think that looks pretty good. All right, let's dive on in. So we can have a start scenario. For the interest of showing you guys the game, I'm not going to do any of the start scenarios or anything else. We'll get rid of the crisis for right now. Starting out up here would actually be kind of risky because Vikings invade if you have this enabled right here, and they will routinely wipe out random settlements. With one of the earlier demos that I played that was unlocked, and I played for 5 or 6 hours, a big portion of the game is you trying to make friends with as many people as possible to create military alliances just to hold these guys off. But since we have the first 25 days and no further, this isn't going to be a factor anyways, so we can just disable it. From there, you can put the game on different difficulties. You can have different modifiers and different economic concerns and different things that are messed up over here. Effectively like prophecies and things of that nature that you can play along with. I look forward to seeing more of those get implemented because there's some interesting ones on in there. But let's have a look at our town and see if it's okay. So after a little bit of a load screen, here we are. Taking a look around, we're kind of limited on farmland right there. Anything that grows those little shrub grasses is going to be farmland that you're able to exploit. So I don't think farming is going to be a strength of ours. We do have an iron mine, which is good. It looks like we have a little bit more fertile ground over there as well, so we'll be able to expand on into that. Is there anything along the water? Probably not, because that's seawater over there, so I doubt it's going to help out altogether that much, what with the saltiness, depriving the soil of nutrients and things. But it looks like we've got ourselves a start. Lots and lots of woodland, so I'm guessing we're going to be able to produce a lot of wood around here. Loads and loads of forest. Let's go ahead and unpause her. Now, this game is kind of like a condensed version of RimWorld when you're playing from this side right here. We have our three lords. They all have different moods. They all have different thoughts. They all have things that they want and desires. They all have rings. Rings are you effectively telling a lord how important they are to you. It's a currency that you use to curry favor with people when it seems like their resolve is slipping. We've also got some basic houses over here, some basic lords' houses. We've started out with 7 peasants up here, and you can see all of the resources that are going to be pertinent listed over on this side. The most important of which that you should probably keep an eye on are going to be beer and flour. These are going to be things that you're going to be selling to people through the market pretty frequently, but we'll mess with the market forces in just a second. For right now, things that we want to get up and running in the very early portions of the game are going to be a lumber mill. Without a lumber mill, things are going to get a little bit hairy around here. Everything in this game is a pre-build. There are no customizable buildings or anything to play around with. However, similar buildings of the same type do have a little bit of proceduralism in that, like, the roof will be a little bit different. The chimney will be a little bit different. The eaves will be a little bit different. So it does do a decent job at breaking apart the visual monotony so that all your buildings don't look identical, but they still look fairly similar so that you can identify them by function. With this lumber mill up right here, it's going to assign a worker to that. Right now, it looks like we have... How many unemployed peasants do we have? Like, no unemployed peasants. We also need someone to manage this place, otherwise it's going to produce poorly. So we'll go ahead and put shivv'ed on that since he's our management master. Later on in the game, you will want to cycle around your lords in order to focus on things that are more important or are less important as you go forward throughout the game. We also want to pre-prep a little bit of housing with some of this wood that we have over here. Peasant housing is going to be important for us. So let's go ahead and stamp out just like a little boulevard over here. I don't think the buildings rotate. Oh, they do rotate. Okay, never mind. Well, I've put my foot in my mouth already. That's fine. I work on the internet. I'm used to having it in there. We'll rotate the buildings and put them like that so that we have a little boulevard and like some side streets that we can play around with. These will just sort of get built over time. We also have control of the time scale on this side. Another building that's going to be incredibly important for us to build in the early game is going to be the library. I'll probably put that in the noble quarter over there because each of your characters, they have knowledge. And you lose that knowledge as they die. They need to teach it to successive generations how to build various buildings and things like that. However, every single time they go through and they learn something, they create a book of it so that someone else in the future can learn it. So the worst case is that you have to do a research, I think, like once or twice. I haven't had to do any researches over. They've just naturally taught them to their children as they go out and as they get pregnant and stuff like that. These lords are mostly going to be administrators. The various stats they have are going to determine the way they interact with the rest of the world. If we take a look at the world map over here, we've got our neighbors. So it looks like Tanaya is kind of like neutral about us. Greenspire, they like us, so they're friends with us. We must be related to them in some way. Over on this side, we have Maka. Maka, they're not like huge fans of us, but it's mostly due to the fact that they are from a different culture. We've also got Kaiden culture over here. They like us even less. And then it looks like Tanaya's pretty much neutral right here. So a best course of action would more than likely be, in my opinion anyways, to go through and probably secure this area right here. I don't know if there's anybody living up on the key. This little like peninsula right here is normally where the Vikings move in and they start invading, which is why this is considered like a medium hard map, is because you're adjacent to the Vikings very early on and it's hard to put together an army by the time they get to you. Whereas if you're like way inland, it's probably going to be about a gazillion years before the Vikings get to you. And so you've got a lot of time to solidify alliances and make things happen. We got 8 new migrants at the end of the day, which is going to expand out our population pretty aggressively. So that's a good thing that we picked them up because we don't particularly have a whole lot of resources to get things done. And to produce resources, we need people. So I'm going to put a shrine up here. People in this game are sort of like Warhammer Fantasy religious. If they don't pray, so there's like 3 different states. There's fanatic, there's agnostic, and there's religious. Those all do different things to your society depending on the prevalence that they're in there. They can all be like a good or a bad thing depending on how you're building up your society. In some situations, having a crazy fanatical burn them at the stake society can be a really good idea. In other situations, it can kind of run counter to your goals. And so once you start having temples and churches and things, you can sort of guide that process and you can encourage people to be more or less, I guess, religious. Oh, good. Urina's pregnant. They said that she had a fertility problem, so I was a little bit worried about the heirs that would take over our name. But it looks like we're all good and squared away right there because she got pregnant. Now that the library's up and running, we probably want to hit the books a little bit with somebody that's intelligent. And so we've got hop fields and beer. Beer in this game, just assume for the sake of learning this game that everyone is a ridiculous, ludicrous alcoholic, all right? Every single day, your peasants are going to want to eat and they're going to want to drink. And so if you don't do that, their loyalty will drop in accordance with the amount of things that you're supplying. In addition, we probably want to go to our economy menu, and we sort of want to figure out price points for everything that we're selling to everybody. It looks like beer's a little bit more expensive. It looks like rutabagas are pretty cheap. And it looks like flour is right about where it needs to be. I think each of our peasants gets paid. I forget where we see... There we go, wages over here. So it looks like each peasant gets paid $7 a day. And so they've got enough right now to eat every single day, not to drink every single day, but the good news is they probably shouldn't need to drink every single day in order to keep them loyal. And with the next batch of our buildings all nice and banged out, we're a little bit future-proofed from anything that might go wrong. We need to start getting our farming industry all nice and set up. Getting some way to supply ourselves with things outside of trade lanes and whatnot would be a really good idea. Learning and them doing this research right here, it depends on their intelligence. So what tends to happen is you tend to have guys that are good at fighting, you tend to have guys that are good at diplomacy, and then you tend to have guys that are really good thinkers. And you kind of want to delegate the activities based on those three goals at the beginning of the game. So Urena is more than likely going to probably be the repository for the sum total of all of the knowledge of our society. However, she is pregnant right now, so hopefully she'll teach that to her kids along the way. And then from there, we're probably going to want to use Druzhimir, I think, for any sort of diplomatic task. In this game, manners and persuasion really, really matter, because what you'll see is we can only have 5 lords for any fief right now, or any fief, I guess, right now. Other people will line up on this side with a slightly smaller icon. Other lords and other ladies will come to visit us and recreate inside of our area, which means that Druzhimir is probably going to be the greeting party for all of that, spending time with them, making friends with them, and guaranteeing that we're not surrounded on all sides by scary red text that implies we're about to be murdered. Whereas Zivarod is very, very good at management. So we kind of want Zivarod to be in charge of most of our industries because he's going to give them like a 50% bonus to their daily production. And then Urena gets a fat bonus to learning things and also teaching children and whatnot. So she'll probably be the one that's tutoring all of our children, making sure they don't end up a bunch of useless mooks. Looks like we've learned hop fields and beer, which is really good. We will also take Urena and we will learn how to make rye over on this side. And then that means we're about due for our first field. These fields, we're going to want to space them kind of carefully here. I don't think we're going to have room for everything. Yeah, so it doesn't look like we're going to have enough room for all the different buildings. And if we do, one of them is going to be less efficient. So we'll drop that in right there. We'll also try to put in a rutabaga field like right there. That'll give us a little bit more work to keep our peasants occupied because, you know, idle hands spend time at the pitchfork and the torch. And you can be rebelled against and overthrown in this game. Keeping your people happy, really, really good idea. And that extends throughout the entire game. You'll notice that every single lord has a loyalty and they have a mood. You want to keep those about as high as possible because if it drops down beneath a certain threshold, they start having thoughts about leaving, abandoning the family, and petitioning for a position with other families. And so keep them happy to the best of your ability. There are events in this game, so the Holy Church has put out a decree. There's kind of like this side entity that exists that's watching over all the lords that we're all governed by. It's kind of like the High Table in John Wick. So there are rules and regulations for what you are and aren't allowed to do, casus belli and whatnot. As of right now, it looks like they have put out the Edict of the Protection of the Loving Family, which means that we are not allowed to engage in blackmail, warfare, intrigue, assassinations, stuff like that. So for the early game, we don't really have any enemies, so I'm not too worried about those being a prevailing problem as the game goes along. However, we got an enlightenment over here. Zivarod, apparently while praying, learned how to make an upgraded lumber mill. Nice. Upgrade the lumber mill. The buildings do have different tiers. They do have different heights that they can go on up to that will require different resources that get more complex to produce as you go through the game. And playing this game as an economic powerhouse is 100% an option. At the beginning of the game, they are going to present you with a choice as to, there it is right there actually, what your ambition is and what you want to do with your playthrough. So you can be a conqueror. This means that you have to capture 3 vassals. 3 neighboring states have to owe fealty to you. We can be a unifier, so we can create an alliance and not do it coercively, effectively, and have 3 provinces under our control via diplomacy. It looks like we can be fertile, which means that if we get up to 58 people, we will be considered a success. Or we can have the economic victory over here, which is that we produce $1,500 worth of goods a day. I'll probably go with, let's go with economic. That sounds like fun. I feel like we've got a decent map right now that's got a little bit of everything, and it's got multiple field tiles on it, so that'll work out. Now, this is not our only territory. I need to appoint managers over here. You have to have a noble that comes by and screams at everybody every day to get the bonus production out that you normally will not be getting. With 15 people, it looks like we have 2 unemployed left. That's good. It looks like they're over here upgrading the lumber mill as well to the new graphic. Having 2 people go through and do the lumber mill is a really, really good idea, so as to avoid spotting the entire map with lumber mills left and right. That should leave us with 1 unemployed. And then how many migrants do we have coming in today? 5 migrants today. So we've got, I think, 10 right there. This is basically like a worker's flop house. And then we've got 10 right here. The extra 5 will come in to give us 20. People get like a bonus for having houses that they live inside of that are not the flop house. Go figure. And so let's go ahead and, what was the spacing on that? I guess we'll just have like a little avenue right here. And we'll just kind of like future-proof it up, I think. There's apparently a wolf attacking the new batch of peasants that just came in, and Safrana is like the only one brave enough to square off with him. Gave him a black eye and 15 injuries, so... Damn, look at you, little peasant, out here smoking wolves. Good for you. I'd promote that lady if I could. She'll probably die, though. We have a coronation ceremony taking place, so our guy is officially getting his crown. It looks like he's a little bit cranky. He's kind of lonely right now. We're probably going to want to marry him off before too long. We've got Roger over here. Roger is a freelance agent. So just like there are noble lords that are tied to houses, there's also other kind of like landless hedge knights that will cruise around and try to find a family that will pay for them in order to be in their household. This guy right here, he's pretty good at fighting and command, so he's a worthwhile general were we to pick him up. But we've got our plate full right now, so I don't really want to. Every single day, depending on how happy the church is with you, they'll send a holy trader out. You can go trade with the trader. You can sell him stuff. You can buy things from him. The amount of goods that he has available will depend entirely on how happy the church is with you and how well you've been doing lately. For right now, we haven't really had a whole lot of time to put in a lot of legwork with the church, so not that big of a deal. We don't have anybody around us with daughters that are ready to be married off, but I did want to point out to you that we also have fiefs out here. So every day, it looks like we get 15 metal, and it looks like we get 12 herbs every single day from that side. And so we'll want to very, very carefully monitor the amount of grain that we're taking in. Everything here is kind of trade fodder for right now at this phase of the game. The metal will be important later on for getting like tier 3 buildings and for building armor and weapons and stuff like that. What is that? 7 bandits with combat skill 5. They don't have any weapons. They will join your army, but all of your neighbors will be cranky about it. So you can hire mercenaries either from the map or you can hire them professionally. If you hire them from the map, people get cranky about it because basically you're just hiring brigands and bandits to come fill out your army. People don't like that. But you can also do it from the military menu down here, where if I wanted to, there's mercenaries around. We could spend a bunch of money in order to draft them into the army. If we have any peasants that have the disposition for it and they have combat skills, we can also go through and click on them and add them to the army and then assign someone as a leader. There are different weapons, there are different equipments in this game that you can give people when you send them into combat. And the combat that I did, there hasn't been a whole lot of combat in the 2 or 3 hours that I spent with the game, But the combat that I did as part of the tutorial was very, very bloody and very sort of visceral. It's kind of like RimWorld combat, except these guys have like little fists and stuff, and they make little facial expressions. They stab each other, they surrender. Everything is animated very, very well and kind of like in a humorous way. I don't know why none of that got built. Probably because they were working on the farms all day today would be my guess. And just like that, our child is born. So it looks like we gave birth to a daughter. That's a little bit unfortunate. We can use her to solidify an alliance by marrying her off. But I think she becomes a member of the other person's house if we do that. So we're still going to want to hold out for a son. So hopefully they're still feeling kind of frisky and they like get after it. Because a son will allow us to marry somebody else's daughter and bring them into our household. I'll probably go with the 90% fertility right there on the rye field, I guess. We do have enough peasants left over to where that should be all right. We've got a little bit of cash flow coming in from people buying things from the market, but I have noticed that we're dropping off a little bit on food and also on liquor, so we're going to want to get our own production going on that. So let's get a mill going over by the warehouse here. And so we'll have a little mill right there where they'll mill off the grain and turn it into flour that the peasants can then buy in order to make their lives a little bit better. We'll also get a brewery that's right down here by the fields. The warehouse is on the side. This right here is kind of like the central hall of your society. It's got a warehouse attached to the side of it. And so we can build other detached warehouses later on. But for right now, that'll be good enough. Druzhimir hasn't really been doing anything, and so I would suggest that we send Druzhimir off to kind of like make friends with all these guys. He's got really, really good manners, and so we'll start seeing if we can smooth over relationships with our neighbors. Worst case scenario is we can start sending bribes. In just a minute, you'll see him leave Goldshire, and he'll walk along the little trail and come down over here, and then we'll just kind of get a little messenger about what happened while he was over there. But we need to start spending our time solidifying relationships with the neighboring realms because they've got daughters, actually. It looks like everybody's having daughters around here right now. Okay. I kind of don't want to spend too much time with Druzhimir on the road. So Druzhimir has arrived in Misthaven and is carrying out his assignment. I said that he should just make friends with Adna and spend time with her and just sort of see how that goes. If it goes reasonably well, it'll open up other doors that we can play around with, and he should be back by kind of like the end of the day. He successfully completed the task, spending time together. Good. I wanted to like bring up her character sheet, but I think we might have to wait until she's around. Squad Teftra. So it looks like they're also like at war with somebody. They like attacked somebody while moving through my territory without asking. Splattercat will remember this. So with our brewery over here, we'll go ahead and start assigning these maybe to other people so that they can level up their management a little bit. And so we'll have Druzhimir back over here. Hopefully Druzhimir and Urena start like doing it again pretty soon because we need another kid. If we could spit out like 2 to 3 children, that would be ideal. Apparently we have eternal power to Zoltan over here who has arrived. He is a free agent. And it looks like he's a manager, actually. It looks like we would want to hire him as one of our 5 lords if we needed more people to run production centers. But for right now, I feel kind of okay about where we're at. You can also set up production limits on all of these things. I would suggest we produce flour until we have 100. I would suggest we produce beer till we have 100. That might lean on our supplies a little bit heavily. I don't know. I guess we'll make as many moonshines as possible, too, just to bang those out. We may need to upgrade the brewery in order to get that done. And I don't think the brewery is going to be doing anything for a day or two anyways, so let's go ahead and just upgrade the brewery now. Because unlike most factions on the map, we have an early game lead on iron. Iron is usually kind of hard to come by for a lot of people in this game. So like a lot of the different factions, they do not have iron production, and so they've got to like trade for it, and they've got to very carefully decide what they want to spend that iron on to like shore up the mysteries of their economy or to like equip their units or whatever. These guys probably won't function for a day or two, but it looks like we now have, you can see what the end of the day delivery to our stockpile is going to be by this little number on the right hand side of your production. And so I'm hoping, what does this produce per day? it produces 79 wheat per day. So that's pretty good. I'll definitely take that. We'll need to keep a long eye on whether or not it's actually producing enough flour and beer for us to get along. It looks like they're making moonshine on this side. A little bit of shine never hurt nobody. And so I think we probably want to start doing a tavern so that we can make more money off of alcohol. We'll put the tavern right out in front of our main area. And then I don't know if we started with any soldiers. I don't think that we did. I think the last faction that I played, they started out with 2 bodyguards as soldiers at the beginning of the game. So we're going to need to hire mercenaries in order to come through and make this whole thing happen. We do have crime and punishment in this game. If your people are unhappy, they will begin engaging in crime and like stealing from the stockpile and generally doing antisocial things. You can put down flags that'll be patrol flags, and if the guards see them doing that, they'll drag them off and hang them. This game is actually kind of brutal for how cute the art style is. The punishment for most things is getting hanged or getting lit on fire. We do have a trader here, and I do think we're swimming in a couple of resources we can afford to get away with. So let's go ahead and send Druzhimir over here to talk to this guy. I'll probably sell it, since we get an iron delivery pretty frequently, I'll probably sell off that much iron right there. We do have a lot of herbs, and we do get deliveries of those, and so I'll probably sell off some of those. With the rutabagas, we can probably get away with selling a lot of the rutabagas, because we're only using... Rutabagas are a food, you can eat them, but they're a desperation food. They're kind of like chitlins. Your guys will only eat the rutabagas if they can't afford anything else and your economy is all messed up, and then they have a high chance of getting sick when they eat a rutabaga, whereas they prefer to buy flour. That's what they would like to buy each day. We do have a little bit of cash. We could get braised rutabagas. Apparently there's rutabaga typhoid that you can catch from eating rutabagas. We are going to want to look into kind of like... I feel like we've got food problems right now. I would say the pig farm is a good idea, and I would say that the temple is a really good idea as well, because once we have a temple, that's going to give us access to the Holy Mother. She'll send a bishop to be in charge of our temple, and that bishop will be the NPC that we can assign our lords to in order to sort of like buff up our relationship with the Holy Mother. I'm tempted to hire Mila over here for 10 days. You'll be able to assign them to the same task as your own lord. Can I marry them into the family while they're here? Because I was thinking about having her for a wife for our brother. Because if our brother can start spitting out kids, that solidifies our line pretty aggressively. It does open us up for rebellion if him or his children ever get upset with us. It does open us up for a rebellion. But, yeah, let's hire her. Druzhimir, go talk to her. I don't know what this is going to set me back as far as my economy goes. She also doesn't have a place to live, which is going to make her cranky. So we should probably get like an extra lord's house over there too, just to make sure she's got a place to lay her head down to avoid any unwanted friction. But with Mila, can I like marry her into the family? I gave the king a seduce order with his wife, and it appears to be working. They're breaking out the freaky stuff right there, dude. They're getting it done. And so hopefully, hey, she's pregnant again. All right, that was exactly what normally they just do it all on their own, but sometimes you got to give them a seduce order because they're busy with other stuff going on. With Mila, she's not really doing much right now. I should probably have her manage something. We did buy the pig farm knowledge. So it might be a good idea to have, like, shivv'ed come over here and learn how to make pig farms so that we have, like, extra food to go around. Meat is tasty and boosts mood for the entire next day, especially for peasants and slaves. Good. In this game, when you defeat bandits, you can't imprison them. There's prison systems, there's slavery systems, there's all kinds of systems in this game. We finally got our first wheat harvest right as we're starting to run out of food, so hopefully the mill bangs that out and fixes it for us. We do need to get better relationship with our neighbor. They have a daughter that's available for marriage, and I really need to get shivv'ed married. Getting him married about as soon as possible would be a good idea. So I've sent Druzhimir back over here to go wolf hunting with their daughter's mother just in case, just to see if that smooths things over. He's got a really high combat stat, and so he should be fine on the wolf hunt, hopefully, and complete the mission without too many problems. We'll see. The trader has also arrived. It'd be a really good idea for us to shore up our food issues while the trader is here, because our food is not so great right now. It's getting cleaned out pretty aggressively. Let's send somebody over to go trade with the trader. And in trading with the trader, I may have to spend a lot of money here to fix our supply of food. It may get expensive, and I don't really have anything to offer in exchange for that, except for, like, some of our metals, I guess. We are losing pricing on the metals, though. These guys are worth 14 bucks because everybody wants them, so that's good. That'll help out a little bit. I can probably shave off some brewskis to make this thing happen, too. All right, so the trade has gone through, and it looks like we're good on flour for a little bit, and it didn't really cost us that much of our issues. Over here in Misthaven, it'd probably be a good idea to send an offering to their king. 200 bucks. And it looks like we could pull out 14 reputation. Let's go ahead and do that and see if it fixes it. A request for assistance from Caden. What do they want? Looks like he's at war with Stardale right now, and he wants us to send an army to assist him. I'm not going to do that because I don't have an army. It's one of those cases where it's like, well, I would like to help out, but unfortunately, I don't really have a whole lot for you here. We'll make tribute with their king. Hopefully in making tribute with their king, nothing goes horrible, and we can boost this up to, like, a positive relationship. I write to you with heartfelt thanks of your generous gift. Neighborly relations ought to be built upon friendship, but very few understand this in our time. Signed by my own hand, King Osserkep. Nice. Okay, so hopefully that, like, helps out a little bit. Yeah, we have a good relationship with them now. And so what I'll do is I will say, I'm going to send Zivarod over here to see if he can marry their daughter. If he can marry their daughter, that solidifies our line, because we've got a second child coming on in, and if the second child comes in female, we're going to be gifting nobles to a lot of other houses in order to cement kind of our place on the map. With Varns, I don't know if I can arrange a marriage of Grimalon. Yeah, our daughter's not old enough yet, so until she's 13, we can't, like, pre-arrange it, basically. We got to wait until she's of age. And so I was just checking to see if we can arrange the marriage now so that when she comes of age, the marriage just automatically happens, but it doesn't look like we can do that. We've actually got to wait for that to take place. It looks like we did get a positive relationship from that, so that's good. Very, very fantastic. So that's put us up to a plus 11 relationship now. So we have good diplomacy with the neighbor with whom we share the vast majority of our border. That's a really, really good thing. We want these guys to be a buffer state. We're in a really good spot right now as far as geography is concerned. We can't be invaded by a lot of places. So if we can manage to make friends with all of these neighboring kingdoms, we've got a very, very nice buffer. These guys have a job. They want us to assassinate Telma of Lakehold, and they'll give us 900 bucks. I mean, I don't know if they're stronger than we are. They're definitely stronger than we are. They've got an army and stuff. I don't have an army or anything yet because an army wasn't necessary with where I'm at right now. See, I'm a king that rules by peace. Therefore, not necessary. Teftra is extra strength cranky with us right now because she doesn't have a house. So I should probably do something about that. Let's bang out another noble house for her. We're a little bit low on wood, but I think I can trade my way. Where am I right now? There we go. I'm like way off on the side of the map. She's going to want her own house. She doesn't share it with her husband. Everybody's got like their own property in this game. Hopefully when we get our next batch of iron and we get our next batch of herbs, I can get a decent price out of that. And in getting said decent price, we're really having grain problems right now, so I may trade for grain as well, just to keep us ready to rock. I'll also upgrade the lumber mill, I think. Just like while we're in the neighborhood, because we're not producing nearly enough wood today. Sold off some of our excess hop stocks, just to make things happen. We may also want to set up a trade lane with one of our neighbors. What does Misthaven produce? Do they have anything good? They're selling rye, but I've got to be at plus 25 before they'll take the rye. Okay. Yeah, getting rye deliveries from our neighbor would be a really good idea. I think that solves a problem because we're having issues producing rye right now. It's going very slowly. I can continue to upgrade this guy to add more workers to it, and in fact, I think that might be... Actually, no, I can't. Never mind. Take that off. That's not what I want to upgrade. I don't think you can upgrade the farms just yet. Would also be a good idea for somebody to get knowledge of the temple. I've just noticed that everybody's cranky because they can't go to church yet, and so we need to build them a church so that it'll bring their moods up to a green. As far as I've seen so far, everything in the UI is fairly self-explanatory. Seems to be a pretty accessible game to me. I don't think I've really had that many problems figuring anything out. All you got to do is move around some flip tabs and whatnot if you want to figure out what's happening next. While obviously I haven't been able to do a super deep dive into the game because it's limited to the first 25 days. I did play for 5 or 6 hours on an older build that was unlocked, and I found the game to be really, really enjoyable. Let's educate our daughter in... Let's educate... Oh, we have 2 educators now. Good. Have Teftra do it then. Teftra isn't really doing much right now, and I've got other people studying, trying to learn new technologies, so I would like to get that squared away. Hey, and our child is born. We have a son. Our line is secure. And apparently they're right back to it again. They just got done. Like, she just spit out the kid and you're already up in there, man. You got to give her like 8 weeks, bro. You got to give it some time. Like, I know you're pent up after the last like 9 months or so, but like, you got to give it a minute, man. It's been 9 months. What's another couple weeks? The good news is millers are milling now. So we've got quite a bit of food coming on in at the moment, which should relieve the need for me to be purchasing most of my food, which I've been doing pretty much this entire time. I've been buying food instead of being able to produce it, but I think our economy is just now starting to get on its feet after all this time. We're still a little bit low on beer, which I find to be a tiny bit concerning. But we'll figure it out as we go. As long as everybody's fed, I'm happy. And it looks like we just got 57 grain in from somewhere, too. I don't know exactly where the grain came from, but we got 57 grain. So that's good. And as long as we have enough shine, we should be all right, because the peasants will drink shine instead of beer. And so, if we can sell shine, that makes life a little bit easier. And it looks like after everybody buys food, we're net positive on gold as well. So that means we're trickling up a little bit of tiny cash along the way too. So during today's video, we've secured our air, which is probably the most important thing to take care of. We've also secured our food supply, which hopefully by tomorrow gets a little bit better. It looks like we're positive on food. Sometimes it takes them a little while to move things around in between the stockpiles. So occasionally it can be pretty hard. We should have, as far as I tell, 40 flour ready to rock. It looks like it's not inside of there. Looks like it's inside of there. Maybe we just came out plus 28 at the end of the day. That's fine. I'll take it. Oh no, dude. There's a fight. Apparently Mila got into a fight with one of the visiting lords, and so they're just having a drunken slugfest right now, knocking each other's brains out. The good news here... Oh, look at that. Family's jumping in on it now. Big King, put those knuckles on him. Let him feel it. Shields and apparently, I guess, wine glasses are the weapons of choice for this duel. Mom is drinking and teaching Koilan how to fight while watching a fight, being like, listen, so like, you want to keep those hands up by your eyebrows, but not too tight. You want to be able to take your right knee, whatever your dominant knee is, you're going to turn that inwards, you're going to slip, you're going to weave. If it comes from that side, if it comes from the other side, your knee goes outwards, you slip around it. Like, this is a prime learning opportunity. Druzhimir got knocked the hell out, though. Apparently, this guy right here is pretty tough. Or he just got really, really lucky. Oh, he's got a health potion on him. He's feeling himself. All right. A wolf just ate one of our peasants, so we're probably going to have to do something about this. All right. Let's have Druzhimir, whoever our best fighter is. We need you to go wolf hunting. Bring Teftra with you. Why not? Throw your armor on. Yeah, I was going to say, somebody's fighting over here, too. In an interest to shore up our rye situation as well, because Rye is not coming in as rapidly or being processed. We're kind of in stasis right now as far as food goes. I would like to see the food get stockpiled so that we have a whole lot more of it. The last map that I played had really good farming conditions, and so I didn't really have this problem. And so I'm going to add another rye field so that we're getting a double batch of rye coming in. There is a downside to this. These fields will occasionally need to be refertilized with large quantities of wood. And if you're not ready to do that, it can cause problems. And so I think it takes like 30 wood in order to resupply a field because they burn the wood for ash and then they spread it on the fields in order to refertilize it. We did spend a lot of wood on that, but we are ticking up pretty rapidly on wood per day. So hopefully within the next day or two, we can kind of get that under control. We're going to try to trade into some new food pretty shortly. But we may be leaning on our rutabaga supply before too long while this guy spins up right here and gets going. I think the manager bonus is going to supersede the lack of bonus that it gets from being partially off the fertile tiles. But we got to do what we got to do. It's going to be every 3 days we should be getting like 200 rye now instead of 100 because 100 is clearly not doing it for our society. And we also have our first criminal over here coming on into steal, I guess. A cutthroat anyways. We can... I don't have a scaffold yet, so I can't, like, catch him and hang him. So I think we're just, like, at the mercy of whatever he decides to do. Oh, we already have the temple technology, which is nice, too. I didn't realize we already had it. Good, because we could use a temple. I need 150 wood for that, though, and I think the fields, yeah, I was going to say, the fields are going to be depleted pretty soon, as far as I can tell. Between all that over there, did you guys get it? Okay, good. The food producers got the wheat. I should probably turn off beer production at some point because I think moonshine is what's carrying right now and keeping us in business. But this faction right here, they have a lot more economic concerns than my last one did. I don't know if they just started out with less or if they started out with more or what. Urena got into a brawl. Apparently just with a peasant. All right. I guess some peasant was running his mouth and needed to get smacked up. Every now and again, dude, you gotta let those peasants know. You can't just let them have a freebie out here. You gotta remind them who's in charge. Ugh, it looks like Moonrealm and these guys are beefing right now, too. That's not great. I think Moonrealm is the dangerous neighbor they were talking about that took the expansionist ambition. We may have to vassalize for a little bit. We'll see how it goes. I think I'll also trade with the trader for a minute. Just to make sure we have things coming in. Let's just take his entire stock right now of grains. And then I'll probably give him like 9 metals in return. And then the price just dropped out the bottom on that. But I do have hops. You want hops? Here, I'll give you some hops. I've got loads and loads and loads of hops. All right, so market saturation has been reached right there as well. The good news is we just got a bunch of food and a bunch of goodies, and it only cost us like 30 bucks. Wasn't really that big of a deal. I like the game. I think there's a lot of things to consider here. While our little burgeoning society is struggling a little bit, I like this. It offers a midway point in between RimWorld and Crusader Kings that I didn't really know that I was craving, but it is an enjoyable little title. I do think we are going to have to pick up some soldiers pretty soon. Just to put on patrol. I don't have the... Oh, he left already. I was going to say I needed to go talk to the trader and buy the blueprint for the scaffold so that I can start hanging guys. But unfortunately, don't have that. I can invent cooking meat for 3 paper. I can level up our teaching. These are all the technologies that are available for right now, in case you were wondering. There's a lot of technologies in here that you're going to have to learn one by one. Did we ever learn the pig farm? I was going to say, dude, let's get the alternative sources of things that I can sell. So at the start of the breeding cycle requires 50 rutabagas to feed to the pigs. Okay, I think we have enough. It'll probably be all right. What's the worst that can happen? Throw it on in there. I have 8 unemployed guys, so I think there's a pretty good shot here that we can get another lumber mill on this side as well. just to expand that part of the industry. And if we end up with too much lumber, we can always just sell it to the trader that comes in. But I dig it. Everything seems to be working, too. I've had no crashes. I've had no bugs. I've had no characters getting confused and wandering around and doing nothing. I would say that this is a game that's definitely hitting the nail on the head as to, like, something that I was personally looking for, where it combines two games that I'm especially stoked about, Crusader Kings and RimWorld, into sort of like a unified jack-of-all-trades package that doesn't specialize on the colony management end quite as deeply as one does, and not quite as deeply on the role-playing aspects as the other does, but does smush those two things together and give you a satisfying experience. I dig the game. I think it's pretty cool. This is Norland. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I will see you all later. Thank you for stopping on by. I will catch you tomorrow with something hot and fresh off the indie skillet, but up until then, I think it's time for me to go. Bye, folks.